They say when you preach, you better mind. You better mind what you say. You better mind what you're shouting about. Because sometimes we can shout about anything and everything. But we got to shout about our Lord, church. You just better mind. And the entrance song just gets to me, too. I don't know what you came to do. I just don't know what you came to do. But I came to praise my Lord. And you should be praising the day, too. Because He woke you up. Now for the hard stuff. This week in the gospel, we find the tale of two women. Martha in her get-it-done at all cost mood, trying to prepare food to serve the guests who gathered in her home. Despite the hustle and bustle of Martha, Mary, her sister, is chilling out, listening to Jesus teach. Martha, in her frustration, begins to whine. Jesus defends Mary's decision, not helping her with the work. Most of us who are type A personalities and love to run around doing things and wonder why no one else cares or help us. It has us wondering what Jesus' statement is all about. So let's take a minute to step back to when the gospel was written and reflect on the context. Then we can begin to see what the core message of the gospel is and how it speaks to us today. For the past few weeks, we've been traveling through the 10th chapter of Luke. It would be fitting that we could recall the past 2 weeks and next week with the theme discipleship, providing us the guidelines of what we are called to do as baptized Christians. An appropriate theme for today because we do have a baptism today. The first reading of this group starts with the beginning of Luke 10th chapter, when Christ appoints and sends 72 disciples out to do His work. He warned them and us today that the roads may not always be easy, and at some places you will not be welcome or accepted. However, they were asked to drop everything and to go bring peace to households. How many of our homes are in division, church? Where there's no peace. We must remember that peace has to start in each individual and to the family. We as Christians embrace the fact that we are one family, but like the gospel times and today, our families are still so divided. But with this challenge to the 72, we too are reminded of our baptismal call to do the same and minister to those we meet, knowing that the journey will not always be easy. Then in Luke's gospel last week, he gave us the greatest commandment that we are to love our God with all our hearts, being, strength, and mind, and that we are to love our neighbors with mercy and compassion, even those who are sitting next to us in the pews today, even those who are different than us. The foundation of our call and how we treat each other. We as Christians don't have the option to just choose those we love. We are called to love all. We are called to justice for all. And we were challenged by our pastor last week to live our lives as baptized Christians, to walk and act together to spread the love of God. Some of us cannot do it alone, but all of us can make a change. It starts from how we treat each other here in this church. Let us show our neighbors a united church, strengthened by the love of God, and collectively saying, "Here we are, God, we come to do your will." But let us skip this week for a moment. We're going to get to Mary and Martha. Next week, Jesus teaches his disciples and us how to pray to the Father, giving us the prayer we recite daily. But how many days a week is that, church? Nobody knows? So as you can see, during the past few weeks and next week, we are called forth. We are given the foundation commandments and we are taught how to pray to our God and Father. So with all this, one may ask, how does today's story of Martha and Mary fit in? Today, Jesus is entering a village and goes to the home of his friends, Mary and Martha, the M&M sisters. He was welcomed by Martha while her sister Mary takes a disciple position at the feet of Jesus. Seeing this in the first century Jerusalem, a time when women and men worshiped separately, when the Torah was not taught to women, and it was also said that it would be better to burn the Torah than to let women read it. It was read to them behind the screen. It is important to note that 3 instances Jesus is acting contrary to Jewish cultural norms. We find Jesus alone with Jewish women who are not his relatives, a Jewish woman serving him food, and Jesus is teaching a Jewish woman in her home. So by his behavior, there's a clear message that Jesus is giving everyone the word. The status quo is no longer. There's no separation between men and women. The word is for all. For those we separate ourselves because they are different, we don't like. Remember, we don't have the option to choose who we spread the word and the love of God to. In short, the Gospel of Luke, by Jesus telling Martha that Mary has chosen a better way, he has, in essence, broken the Jewish law. And by allowing Mary to be sitting at his feet, he makes it clear that we are called to hear his word. You know, church, before we go out to be world changers, we are going to need some feet time with Jesus to empower us, to strengthen us, to guide us, and to lead us. We have to be prepared for the challenges of living a life for Christ. We are to take time daily to open up the Word. Come on, some of you, knock the dust off your Bible and use it for basic information before leaving earth. Take time daily to sit at the feet of the Master, if possible with the Eucharist. And just to walk that out a little bit more, one of my precious 5 best gifts in my life was a key to this church. I could come in and just sit with Jesus. And sometimes you see me, I'm sitting behind the choir loft, looking right at the tabernacle. And it's always a time for me just to reflect, just to get strengthened. And if you can do that at least once a week, that's the start. We also to take time daily to pray, not once or twice, but all day long. If we could work on it, that every breath I take, I'm breathing in God, and I'm blowing out those things I don't want. We must remember that all are called to his table. All are called to his teaching, all of which is a key to our discipleship. In Luke's theme of table ministry and hospitality, he weaves throughout his gospel. And Luke has inserted 28 mentions of house and home in his gospel. This is why we're given the story of Mary and Martha, embedded in the 10th chapter, which focuses on discipleship, because hospitality leads to discipleship. Martha has one type of hospitality, and Mary has another type of hospitality. The definition of hospitality is the cordial and generous relationship between guest and host. Norman wrote that hospitality offers us the opportunity to deepen and broaden our relationship to our fellow human beings. And this is a core element of discipleship. That means we are to be disciples and ministers to each other. We must be in relationship not only with those we come across each day, but also and foremost with our God. If we are to fulfill our baptismal promises and be disciples of Christ today, the first reading of the gospel calls us all to extend our tables within our families and to those around us as we come for communion. We also extended the welcome and the blessing to all who asked. As a parish, there are a number of ways we can extend our table to increase our outreach, the outreach to our sister parishes in Kenya and Haiti, but more importantly, our outreach in our community. With such programs as restarting the GED, or maybe like St. Cecilia's and other parishes and churches, having a weekly meal with the community. It's surprising to see how many children and youth come to eat a complete meal and how much hunger is in our community. There are many more activities where we extend our table of hospitality. But let us get together for an action plan to reassess our assets, both financially and human. We need new and fresh ideas. And remember, everyone is called, as the Swahili word kuturo means, everyone contributes, from womb to tomb. At home, we all may have our own way of how we spread or expand our tables to others who may come into our lives. For like the meal that Martha was preparing, or that of Abraham in the first reading, physical nourishment is most often the way we extend our table and our love for and to others. But that reminds me of how I grew up in Baltimore. My maternal grandparents lived in a small house near downtown Baltimore, a house with 2 rooms on the first floor, and you could see out the back door from the front door. They had 9 children and a number of grandchildren who stayed there from time to time. When it was warm weather, we would gather around the table to eat our meals with the back door open, and many times with the front door open. Many times when we were sharing a meal, someone would come to the back door looking in. They would be invited in to share whatever we had to eat. We just moved over a little to fit them in, and sometimes share in a chair, because there was no standing in the house while we ate. We were always told that eating standing up made the house poor. I don't know if anybody else heard that. But in retrospect, standing while others are seated does separate you from the family. At that time, we added a new family member. I believe that hospitality is the prelude to relationship. First, the invitation. Second, sharing the conversation, getting to know each other. Oh, you Johnny's son. How's your family? Then the relationship. Come back again and tell your parents we said hello. I remember those times and try as much as I can to do the same in my life, because it was about love sharing during those days, as it should be today. But that is a whole other sermon, and I don't want to delay you getting your crab on today. As you sit at the crab feast today, invite someone you don't know to sit a spell and share the love, share the conversation, and develop the relationship. We all share, in each of us, some Martha and some Mary. But hospitality is very important, and sitting at the Master's feet is important. But there must be a balance between the Mary and the Martha that lives in all of us, so that we can give the best of all that we meet. Church, I don't know what you came to do, but I came to praise the Lord.